It's like the CEO hides amongst the employees. Yes.
Good boss.
Yeah, so the boss is here, he's undercover, and we're just kind of like, oh, I was actually joking with my wife today, and because I'm noticing my little son and his like inability to do certain things. It's just like a baby, like they can't properly breastfeed or things like that. And I'm just like wondering, I'm just like, I'm pretty sure this is definitely not the Supreme Lord. But then I also was thinking, but you know what? Like Nanda and Yashoda also were thinking that with Krishna. There's no way he could be the Supreme Lord. He does this, that, and the other thing. Um, and so, uh, but I just thought I would, you know, I'm just checking, like, wait, you wouldn't come here, would you? But it looks very, very clear to me that he's not come. But he's here, but he definitely didn't come as my baby. Yes, well, actually, I don't know for sure, but he's really good at hiding it if he's so anyway, that's today's subject matter. The Lord is everywhere, I mean, including in all the, Jivara Swarupahoy, Krishnara Nitya Das, Krishnara Tatastha Shakti Beta Beta Prakash, meaning the Tatastha Shakti, all living entities are one within different expansions of the Lord. So Craig's right, he's here on the altar, he's also here in the hearts of every living entity. But at the same time, uh, his expansion or coming in full, like he did with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or Krishna, that type of appearance, at least from my son's standpoint, it does not look like that. That's the case, which would be good because that would be a very big thing for my false ego. Ooh, the Lord came in my house, something like that. Um, but yes, and if he did somehow come, he's really really good at hiding it because my son definitely does not appear very Lord-like. Um, so anyhow, no problem. Let's read text 37. Maybe before we can begin, let's just honor the Guru Parampara quickly. Um, Anyone want to do the scrolling? You know, it's chapter. Right. The CEO hides amongst the employees. That's going to be today's thing. If you remember last time, We were talking about although the queen's beautiful smiles and furtive or shy glances were all spotless and exciting, and although they could conquer Cupid himself by making him give up his bow in frustration, and although even the tolerant Shiva could fall victim to them, still, despite all their magical feats and attractions, they could not agitate the senses of the Lord. Um, Even though they're manifesting the topmost level of external beauty. And I was telling you guys my story about when I was a younger man, when this very interesting lady had come, and I just was completely bewildered by her material beauty. So, but and I saw firsthand how it just completely conquered me, and I just like I couldn't even I think I couldn't even like shut my mouth. I was just like couldn't even believe it. But this, no matter how beautiful someone is, like even Krishna's queens, they don't conquer him with those external qualities at all. What's actually conquering him is their devotion and their love, their bhakti. So this is on a different level. But no one can agitate the senses of the Lord. He's not controlled by the senses like we are. You know, we can be swayed by our senses. An object of the senses can become very attractive to us because we're overwhelmed by the material energy. But the Lord is not like that. So we'll learn a little bit about what the Lord is like today. Tamayam manyate loko.
Amayam manyate loko.
Yasangam api sanginam.
Sangam api samhidam.
Atmopamyena manujam.
Atma pranye manujam.
Vyaprinvanam yato buddha.
Pranyanam yato buddha.
Tam, unto Lord Krishna. Ayam, all these common men. Manyate, do speculate within the mind. Loka, the conditioned souls. He, certainly. Asangam, unattached. Api, in spite of. Sanginam, affected. Atma, self. Opamyena, by comparison with the self. Manujam, ordinary man. Vyaprinvanam, being engaged in. Yata, because. Abudha, foolish because of ignorance. The common materialistic conditioned souls speculate that the Lord is one of them. Out of their ignorance, they think that the Lord is affected by matter, although he is unattached. Purport. The word Abuddha is significant here. Due to ignorance only, the foolish mundane wranglers. I think a wrangler is like an arguer, but we can check it. A dispute or argument. What's that? Yes, there's many people who are just like to get in an argument or disputes or things like that. It's because of the false ego to trying to always proclaim its position of being right or a knower or enjoyer or something like this. But anyway, the mundane wranglers or the arguers, where am I? Misunderstand the Supreme Lord and spread their foolish imaginations amongst innocent persons. No, she's not ready. Yes. Amongst innocent persons by propaganda. The Supreme Lord Sri Krishna is the original primeval. Primeval means like ancient, original person. The original primeval personality of Godhead. And when he was personally present before the eyes of everyone, he displayed full-fledged divine potency in every field of activities. As we have already explained in the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, he is completely independent to act however he likes, but all his actions are full of bliss, knowledge, and eternity. Only the foolish mundaners misunderstand him, unaware of his eternal form of knowledge and bliss, which is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita and the Upanishads. His different potencies work in a perfect plan of natural sequence, and doing everything by the agency of his different potencies, he remains eternally the supreme independent. When he descends on the material world by his causeless mercy to different living beings, he does so by his own potency. He is not subject to any condition of the material modes of nature, and he descends as he is originally. The mental speculators misunderstand him as the supreme person and all they consider his impersonal features as inexplicable Brahman to be all. So there's a couple things maybe we could talk about before we just kind of highlight that, because I go back to that. There's a couple things here. One, you see this a lot with Bhagavad Gita translations. If you read a couple translations, you'll realize how many people are trying to say this great man or this person, Krishna, he spoke this teaching of Bhagavad Gita. But they're missing the whole meaning of what Bhagavad Gita means. It's the song of God that Krishna, when it says Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, that's saying that the Supreme Lord said, or the person with full total opulence, that's what Bhagavan implies, has said, it's on a different level than this person, but people who can't recognize that, or they still haven't been proved in their life because of their argumentative and atheistic nature and tendency, that there is a God, they have to try and attribute human-like qualities to God. And so something like Bhagavad Gita can be downplayed, or, what he said is this, but what he really meant is this. And you see this a bunch in so many. That's why Bhagavad Gita has been in the English language for a couple centuries. But that's why nobody until Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita actually fulfilled the recommendation of Bhagavad Gita to become a devotee of Krishna, which is what Krishna asks. But only after reading Prabhupada's Gita, who's giving it as it is, then people took it seriously all over the world, not just in India. So anyhow, you see this. Another interesting thing. Did you ever play like a video game before? Like I used to play World of Warcraft, and I would normally say maybe this is over Craig's head, but Craig was one of the OG video game players in this lifetime.
Well,
Yeah, so he was playing the originals that were coming out in the 70s and 80s. Um, so if you're in a video game, they create an avatar that kind of descends, into the game. But if you ever, I don't know, I used to play World of Warcraft, and every once in a while there would be a glitch in the game or something, and you'd have to literally contact the like like Apple has geniuses, the people who are like kind of controlling. There were like certain type of admins of the game, and they would come in the game and they would descend, and they would have all kinds of special abilities to do so many things. And that's what I kind of thought of when I saw this, because actually that's like the Lord's position. He's not subject to the same rules we're subject to. When we come down into the game of this material world, these are the coding rules. This is how it works. These are the laws of nature. These are the laws of karma. And either you follow the laws of the game or you don't. But he's not subject to those same laws. He can override any law. He can modify anything he wants. It's oftentimes he follows the laws of the game just to keep the fairness of the game going. But he's not subject to them. So this was kind of the analogy that came to my mind, but maybe it would be relatable to you. Maybe all except my wife. But Magna, did you play video games when you were a kid? Okay, the ladies, they had better sense than we did. But but anyhow, it's a good analogy for a gamer at least. Um, so anyway, the mental speculators misunderstand him as the supreme person, and they consider his impersonal features as inexplicable Brahman to be all. So they take the impersonal as the absolute. Such a conception is also the product of conditioned life, because they cannot go beyond their own personal capacity. Therefore, one who considers the Lord on the level of one's limited potency is only a common man. Such a man cannot be convinced that the personality of Godhead is always unaffected by the modes of material nature. He cannot understand that the sun is always unaffected by infectious matter. The mental speculators compare everything from the standpoint of experimental knowledge of their own selves. Thus, when the Lord is found to act like an ordinary person in matrimonial bondage, they consider him to be like one of them, without considering that the Lord can at once marry 16,000 wives or more. Due to a poor fund of knowledge, they accept one side of the picture while disbelieving the other. This means that due to ignorance only, they always think of Lord Krishna as like themselves and make their own conclusions, which are absurd and unauthentic from the version of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So again, out of their ignorance, they think that the Lord is affected by matter, although he is unattached. So Krishna's marrying of 16,108 wives, it is not an act of lust or where we have some lusty God. It's actually because he's displaying his potency. You know, we marry one. Maybe some people in the world, some Muslim culture, Mormon culture, even in the Vedic culture, let's marry two, three. But when you try to marry one wife and please one wife, it's almost an impossible endeavor. And then I can't even imagine two, three, four, five. Maybe it's possible, but most likely not. But 16,108, that's definitely beyond our capacity. That's way beyond our capacity. But not for the Lord. They were all perfectly satisfied in such an arrangement. And there's a chapter later in the Bhagavatam that shows how he manages his householder life, which is quite extraordinary. And Narada Muni witnesses. So anyhow, let's do the next verse. Etadishanamishasya prakritistopi tadgunai na yujite sadatmaste yatha buddhistadashraya. Etad, this, Ishanam, divinity, Ishasya, of the personality of Godhead, Prakritista, being in contact with material nature, Api, in spite of, Tat Gunai, by the qualities, Na, never, Yujite, is affected, Sada Atmasthai, by those who are situated in eternity, Yatha, as is, Buddhi, intelligence, Tat, the Lord, Ashraya, those who are under the shelter of. Translation. This is the divinity of the personality of Godhead. He is not affected by the qualities of material nature, even though he is in contact with them. Similarly, the devotees who have taken shelter of the Lord do not become influenced by the material qualities. So this is very good. In the Vedas and the Vedic literatures, the Shruti and Smriti, it is affirmed that in the divinity there is nothing material. He is transcendental, nirguna, only the supreme cognizant. Hari, or the personality of Godhead, is the supreme transcendental person, situated beyond the range of material affection. These statements are also confirmed even by Acharya Shankar. One may argue that his relation with the goddesses of fortune may be transcendental. But what about his relation with the Yadu dynasty, being born in that family, or his killing the non-believers like Jarasandha and other asuras directly in contact with the modes of material nature? The answer is that the divinity of the personality of Godhead is never in contact with the qualities of material nature in any circumstance. Actually, he is in contact with such qualities because he is the ultimate source of everything, yet he is above the actions of such qualities. He is known, therefore, as Yogeshwar, or the master of mystic power, or in other words, the all-powerful. Even his learned devotees are not affected by the influence of the material modes. The great six Goswamis of Vrindavan all came from greatly rich and aristocratic families, but when they adopted the life of mendicants at Vrindavan, superficially they appeared to be in wretched conditions of life, but factually they were the richest of all in spiritual values. Such Mahabhagavats, or first-grade devotees, although moving amongst men, are not contaminated by honor or insult, hunger or satisfaction, sleep or wakefulness, which are all resultant actions of the three modes of material nature. Similarly, some of them are engaged in worldly dealings, yet are unaffected. So there's a lot here with the Lord. And if you remember the gaming analogy, that's the kind of the case with the Lord. He's in the game, but he's not subject to the same rules that maybe are coded into everyone up. He's not subject to karma. He's not subject to the three modes of material nature. It appears he's walking amongst everyone else, just like in the game, it might appear that one of these personalities is also walking amongst everyone else. But actually, he has a special circumstances, and not only he, his devotees have the special circumstances. Yes.
This is a nerd comment, but it's kind of funny how if you get into a game and you want to not follow any of the rules. There's console commands, and how to do that is actually called God mode. No, God mode. There's
Yeah.
something called God mode, which is none of the rules apply. It's
Y-
funny that it's
Yes,
called
yes,
that.
yes, yes. Why? Because that's the position of God. He's not subject to all of the karmic and rule, and we are. We're completely subject. Test it out, see how it works. You've probably been testing it your whole life. You see how the modes of material nature work. You see how you get the results of your due karma. And ultimately, actually, though, we're talking a lot about initiation lately here. Um, this is one of it's talked about how actually the devotees are no longer subject to the modes of material nature. That's what actually the gift of initiation is, actually. When one takes initiation, the bona fide guru actually takes one's karma. He'll actually take away the material modes of nature acting on you. And now he's connecting you purely to Krishna acting upon you. And all the reactions and all the circumstances that now come are not actually the modes of nature anymore, but they're actually Krishna's special circumstance to bring you closer to him. Sometimes it might appear harsher than the modes of nature, but it's actually not. Because actually, even the modes of nature are Krishna's energy, which is why he's not controlled by the modes of nature. Yes.
Somebody follow your karma, would you not cease to exist here?
You actually, no, you're still exists, but you actually have been spiritualized. It's not that they've negated you, they've upgraded you. So now, because karma even itself, the modes of nature they're just expansions of the Lord's pure chit shakti or spiritual energy. So taking initiation has actually upgraded you in direct connection with the chit shakti, where you kind of get to go God mode now in the video game. Not that you're like a god or anything, but you actually you don't have the same rules, and it doesn't the same things don't apply to you. Because why?
Ability to go, can't you offend more easily or greatly more greatly?
Oh, sure, sure. Yes. Like I said, the reactions are oftentimes harsher than the material modes of nature. Like for instance, what's that? Because it's not applying by karma, actually. Actually, karma is much more gentle. When you're connected to Krishna, sometimes he's much more forceful than karma is. Karma might take many lifetimes to unfold and things like that, but Krishna will give it right away. Right away. Or he'll minimize it where you had to learn a lesson and it should have been far worse by the laws of karma, and he'll minimize it to agree just so you get the point. So it's depending on the level of offense, depending on what you do. But Krishna's got his own system. Um, so actually, when you initiate yourself, when you are by the good mercy of the Lord can get initiated, this is actually what happens. So the devotees, the great devotees of the Lord, um, they're not limited to the same things. Like even, like for instance, by karma to be very impoverished is very unfortunate situation. And by to be very rich and aristocratic is a very fortunate situation. But we see the great devotees of the Lord, like our acharyas and the six Goswamis was the example Prabhupada gave. They were like wearing rags and living under trees, but they were the topmost, most wealthy people. They had like love of God and they were in ecstasy all the time. There's the Shad Goswami Astakam that we can sing. And it's describing all of the activities of the Goswamis and how they're the richest of all in their activities. But from the material seeming from the karmic standpoint, it seems like they're great paupers. Or so this is the nature of the devotee. So it's where did Prabhupada go? Okay, with Gurmaj? Okay. Um, Prabhupada is Parth's nickname. We've been giving people nicknames around the ashram, like spiritual nicknames. Um, and actually, it looks like Gurmaj will give him not a nickname, like a spiritual name very soon, which is very nice. Um, But anyhow, where are we? Such Bhagavats or first grade devotees, although moving amongst men, are not contaminated by honor, insult, hunger, satisfaction, sleep, or wakefulness, which are all resultant actions of the three modes of material nature. Similarly, some of them are engaged in worldly dealings, yet are unaffected. Unless these neutralities of life are there, one cannot be considered situated in transcendence. The divinity and his associates are on the same transcendental plane, and their glories are always sanctified by the action of Yoga Maya, or the internal potency of the Lord. The devotees of the Lord are always transcendental, even if they are sometimes found to have fallen in their behavior. The Lord emphatically declares in the Bhagavad Gita 9:30 that even if an unalloyed devotee is found to be fallen due to a previous material contamination, he is nevertheless to be accepted as fully transcendental because of his being engaged 100% in the devotional service of the Lord. The Lord protects him always because of his rendering service unto him, and the fallen conditions are to be considered accidental and temporary. They will vanish in no time. So it's seen oftentimes, Craig was just saying that, well, isn't it a bigger responsibility? Yes, it is. But what ends up happening is sometimes, many times, and it's happened in the society of ISKCON, it's happened in many spiritual societies, that practitioners just get caught up in the wrong thing and they do a bad thing. But actually, what Krishna says in 9:30 of the Bhagavad Gita is that, maybe we'll read it exactly, but he says, Apichat suduracharo bhajate mam ananya bhak sadoreva samantavyaha samyag vyavasito hi saha. Even if one commits the most abominable actions, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated. So sometimes, yes, well, you can't do both, but sometimes you, due to some past, impressions or some scars, or maybe you just have to see firsthand how abominable the material world is. Devotees get implicated in treacherous things. It's been seen already in at least in ISKCON's young life of 50 plus years. It's seen horrible things have happened. But actually, those devotees, if they go back to the path of devotional service, we should understand their position. I've seen this personally in my life, actually. I won't mention the devotee's name, but there was a senior devotee who was associating with the Sangha I was a part of in, what was it, Newburgh, New York. And we liked this devotee. He was very nice. He was very charming. He was very learned, and but he had some, odd habits. Like he wasn't able to go, to the big temples or things like that. Or if he went, he can only go once. And then he had some like weird like habits, and I didn't know, but he actually had restrictions against what he could do due to a pretty bad mistake he had made in the past, even regarding children, which is something that is abominable. It is. But I saw personally in my life, eventually, when my wife first started coming to the temple, there was a historically bad class that happened in the temple, where the temple, or the person who was giving the class, due to the circumstances, he had a bit of pressure on him that the temple was supporting him and his family, but his main job was to help promote fundraising for the temple. But he gave a historically bad class of trying to guilt the whole congregation into why they need to give more donations to the temple. And it was the first class my wife ever experienced. And I was just like, oh my God, how do we explain this? Like I'm just trying to get her into, this good thing I'm doing, and this is the first thing she experiences. So it was historically bad. I've never experienced such a bad class, actually. But not to criticize him, but to also, but so that should never be done. And I learned also, because I understand what he's saying. We also need help fundraising and all these things. But I learned that day never to do what he did. It's just not good. So he explained that and he gave quotes from Prabhupada, and he said he really should not have done that. You should never get on the Vyasasan. Every time you get on the Vyasasan or to give class, you should always speak on the philosophy. It should never become something for fundraising or any of these other things. It should always be on the Krishna conscious philosophy. So anyhow, he sat and consoled and comforted me and my wife for an hour plus and turned what was a pretty rough first impression to a very good first impression. But then years later, a couple of years later, I found out that around the time I was born, he got implicated in a very abominable activity. Abominable activity. But um, you know, so it actually caused us to feel a certain way towards him. We weren't as friendly as we once were and things like that. But over some time, just by Krishna arranging circumstances, we saw how actually sincere of a devotee he is, and still is. I know him. He still is. And um, over time, we realized that no, this is this we shouldn't make these judgments upon him like this. He made mistakes in the past, but he's in the right situation now. He's sincerely endeavoring for devotional service. So we should see him. And actually we ended up inviting him to our wedding, like kind of as a realization that, like, he's a devotee. Yes, he made terrible mistake. Just like Valmiki was a murderer. Valmiki was a murderer, he was a thief, he was a rogue, he did so many things. But then Narada had great mercy on him and he becomes a great sage. And even housed Sita and Sita's two children, Love and Kush. Anybody, if they become situated in devotional service, it should be overlooked. Now, that being said, to become situated in devotional service means that sincerely be repented and not done again. It shouldn't be done. That's really being situated in devotional service. Or at the very least, maybe you have a serious problem. Say, okay, let's say you're addicted to drugs, and you want to practice devotional service, and I want to do this, Prabhupada, I want to do this, but I just can't give up this habit. I have this really bad habit and I just can't stop. Okay, are you trying? Are you trying to stop? Are you trying to move forward? That's being situated in devotional service. And any of this, you're not limited by this thing. The Lord can give you the power to overcome this. And so, who knows what a devotee has carried for many, many previous past lifetimes and impressions. It seems like karma is playing out, but it's not actually. It's Krishna leading that person deeper into devotional life. But that process is actually, the way to get into that process is actually the initiation. Now, traditionally, this was a men's process, a man's process. And women, by often good fortune, they many times, due to the ritual of marriage, they share the man's fortune. That's part of it, like my wife often jokes, because I was doing a lot of chanting when she was doing the labor and she was not able to do very much chanting. And she's like, well, but because I'm married, I share half of your fortune. So at least I finished my rounds for the day, something like that. But so actually that's why traditionally women weren't given initiations and all these things, because they shared the fortune of their husbands. But that being said, now even Prabhupada made adjustments that women also take initiation and things like that. So yeah, it's no there, if a woman seriously wants to take to that process, is very interested in that process, and our acharyas have made the necessary adjustments to allow. And but this is actually kind of how you can uh, get the expansion pack of the video game, where you have a new set of I don't know, I'm a nerd, yeah, powers and quests and activities that you can do in the game. But yeah, it might be it's harder. It's a more difficult. It's a more difficult gaming mode. You know, the path of devotee is not easy, but the benefit of taking up this path is insurmountable. You can't even measure the good fortune of the one who takes to the devoted path. So anyhow, we have to see um you know, even myself, you know, I've made a lot of mistakes in my devotional life. But I've also felt a lot of mercy from the Lord and the Lord's devotees because in some way I picked myself up from making the mistakes and then I tried to get better situated again. And if that's the case, then we should understand a devotee's position. He's never, um, even though he may have done something bad, yes, we can acknowledge that is not good. Like this devotee did something bad in regards to a child. He will not be the devotee I call for babysitting. You know, that might be common sense. But at the same time, we should not, we should never uh, limit that person to something bad they've done. We've done every type of bad thing in our uh, sojourn through the material world. You know, you just look at all the bad things you did in this lifetime. Now, what's to speak of the billions and billions and billions of other lifetimes you've probably done every type of bad thing that could be imaginable. So none of us have that clean slate, so to say. So if someone is situated on this path, the devotional path, they actually should be seen at actually transcendental. Their transcendental position should be recognized. So um, we see this with Valmiki. We see this with even Prahlad Maharaj. He, in his past life, he was addicted to prostitute. You see this with Narada in two past lives. He was a Gandharva addicted to lust at one point. You know, but at some point, they get properly situated and they're glorious. We worship Narada Muni. We worship Prahlad Maharaj. Um, why? Because they became transcendentally situated. And so this is also our potential destination. There is a process. We're very excited to watch you. Everyone's going through the process here, but we're very excited to watch Michael and Parth jump onto the next level of that process. And maybe even there may be one more, or maybe even two more. We'll see what the Krishna arranges, but there may be one more also who's jumping. Um, but we'll see. But anyhow, this should be understood. We should be very careful with how we view the devotees. Yes, they may make mistakes. Even now they may make mistakes, but if they get back up and get situated in devotional service, they're to be seen as transcendental. So this is very important. Next verse, last verse probably, and then it's time to break the fast. Etad ishanam ishasya prakritisto pitad gunai. No, I read that. Yes, yes, thank you.
We were about.
Oh, this is the last verse of the chapter. We got to finish. Tamme nire bala mudha strainam chanu vratam raha apramana vido bhartur ishwaramatayo yata. Tam, unto Lord Sri Krishna, Menire, took it for granted, Abalaha, delicate, Mudha, because of simplicity, Strainam, of one who is dominated by his wife. Yes. Cha, also, Anuvratam, follower, Raha, lonely place, Apramana Vidaha, unaware of the extent of glories. Bartu, of their husband. Ishwaram, the supreme controller. Matayaha, thesis. Yatha, as it is. The simple and delicate women truly thought that Lord Sri Krishna, their beloved husband, followed them and was dominated by them. That's actually just one of the qualities of exchange of wife and husband. is that, the wife does feel that the husband is dominated, and the husband usually feels it too. So I can attest. They were unaware of the extent of the glories of their husband, as the atheists are unaware of him as the supreme controller. Purport. Even the transcendental wives of Lord Sri Krishna did not know completely the unfathomable glories of the Lord. This ignorance is not mundane because there is some action of the internal potency of the Lord in the exchange of feelings between him and his eternal associates. The Lord exchanges transcendental relations in 5 ways: as proprietor, master, friend, son, and lover. It's interesting. Proprietor means like he's like the owner, right? And that's in the mood of servitude. So when you become, like for instance, when you get initiated, you take the name Das. Like I was joking, I've been calling Tanmay Tulsi Das. So when you become a servant, what it actually means is that you become my owner. I'm Ram Das. Ram is my, the Lord he is my owner. He's the proprietor of me. I am, for all intents and purposes, his slave, just his puppet. That's actually what it means to take to that type of, and that's the beginning. The giving as the proprietor. It's a proprietor, master, friend, son, and lover. And in each of these pastimes, he plays fully by the potency of Yoga Maya, the internal potency. He plays exactly like an equal friend with the cowherd boys, or even with friends like Arjuna. He plays exactly like a son in the presence of Yashodamata. He plays exactly like a lover in the presence of the cowherd damsels, and he plays exactly like a husband in the presence of the queens of Dwarka. Such devotees of the Lord never think of the Lord as the supreme, but think of him exactly as a common friend, a pet son, or a lover, or husband, very much dear to heart and soul. That is the relation between the Lord and his transcendental devotees, who act as his associates in the spiritual sky, where there are innumerable Vaikuntha planets. So actually, there's an interesting thing. We might think that knowledge of the Lord's totality, or Aishwarya, his opulences, um, like was given to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita in the 11th chapter. Do you remember Krishna? He reveals his total opulences and all his cosmic material form. But actually, what ended up happening? Arjuna got frightened, and he like wasn't able to have that friendship that he had with the Lord. So what does the Lord do instead? He covers all that knowledge over. For why? For sweeter relationships. So at one point, knowledge of the Lord's opulence is good. It's going to help us get out of the material modes of nature and realize, wow, I'm implicated in this nonsense, and I should let the Lord be my proprietor. I should go to the Lord. But then at some point also, it's like, then in the midst of devotion in the relationship, it would be good that the Lord then cover over all that knowledge again. Why? So you can actually exchange in the proper situation of the proper relationship, depending. So knowledge kind of leads you out of the material miseries and then into the relationship with the Lord, but then that knowledge needs to be covered over by the Lord's sweetness in order to deepen the relationship. So that's why the Shanta Bhaktas, like even like Prahlad Maharaj, they are in full knowledge of the Lord. They're in like full, knowledge of the Lord's like opulences and everything. But then the Dasya Bhaktas, it slowly decreases a little bit more. And the Sakya Bhaktas even more. They put the Lord on an equal level with them. And then the Vatsalya Bhaktas, then they see the Lord as their junior that they have to chastise, and he's a naughty little boy, and this, that, and the other thing. And then the Madhurya Bhaktas completely ensnared by him and thinking that he's dominated by them and all these other things, playing like love sports and love games with them. So anyhow, this is a very interesting aspect here. But that is the relation between the Lord and his transcendental devotees who act as associates in the spiritual sky where there are innumerable Vaikuntha planets. Vaikuntha means beyond anxiety. When the Lord descends, he does so along with his entourage to display a complete picture of the transcendental world, where pure love and devotion for the Lord prevail, without any mundane tinge of lording it over the creation of the Lord. So that's the symptom of one in bhakti. You have no tinge of wanting to be the Lord or enjoyer, the master or the enjoyer of anything. It's all for giving him the enjoyment. So this is a completely different tendency. than we're used to. But this is only the transcendental devotees can be free from this false ego. So such devotees of the Lord are all liberated souls, perfect representations of the marginal or internal potency, and complete negation of the influence of the external potency. Completely negated the influence of the desire to be the Lord, the Master, which is this is the kind of the material modes of nature of this. This is what the material world is created for, so we can try to fulfill that unholy desire. The wives of Lord Krishna were made to forget this, the immeasurable glories of the Lord by the internal potency, so that there might not be any flaw of exchange. And they took it for granted that the Lord was a henpecked husband, always following them in lonely places. In other words, even the personal associates of the Lord do not know him perfectly well. So what do the thesis writers or the mental speculators know about the transcendental glories of the Lord? That's why it's not recommended to try and learn about Krishna or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or all these things from mundane scholars or Google or Wikipedia or all these things. This is a huge mistake. They have not even the devotee, the very intimate devotees of the Lord know fully what's happening. So what's to speak of, whatever, Dr. Ramakrishna or whatever, these, mundane
I see
people.
a lot of things on Facebook now, these podcasts and having to do, Bhagavad Gita and all that kind of stuff. And some of them don't look so good.
Yeah, I'm sure that these things happen. Yeah, we just let them go, and that's not where we choose to get our information. We want to get from the intimate devotees of the Lord. So, but even then, there's so much left to be, there's so much mystery left to be understood. So, uh, yes, their question. So the mental speculators present different theses as to his becoming the causes of the creation, the ingredients of the creation, or the material and efficient cause of the creation, etc. But all this is but partial knowledge about the Lord. Factually, they are as ignorant as the common man. The Lord can be known by the mercy of the Lord only, and by no other means. But since the dealings of the Lord with his wives are based on pure transcendental love and devotion, the wives are all on the transcendental plane without material contamination. Um, so we shouldn't actually also, think, oh, like the queens of Krishna, we shouldn't think, oh, they're ignorant. They're so fortunately ignorant, actually. We would die to be as ignorant as they are. That would be wonderful. But actually, another thing, this is just what I thought. A lot of people read so many books, if you look at someone's library, like you might have, maybe Bhagavad Gita as it is, Swami Prabhupada, but right next to it, Rick Sanchez and his doctorate, uh, Gabriel Iglesias and his, I'm just making up names. He's a comedian. So anyway, all these authors, and they put things on their reading list. Oh, like sometimes I try to distribute the books to people. I'm like, oh, I got a really tall reading list. And I'm like, oh, who's on the top of your reading list? They're like, oh, I'm reading this book, that book. I'm like, well, the author of my book is God, actually. Maybe put this on top. It might be worth looking at. But so obviously we should read the works of, one, the Shastras are the Lord Himself giving. And then two, there are great devotees of the Lord, those very deeply and intimately connected to the Lord. We should hear their works, read their works. This is why Srila Prabhupada, he's done what he's done. He's trying to lead us to the works of the devotees of the Lord. And he mentions often like the works of the Goswamis and even gives the works of the Goswamis. We were reading Upadeshamrita yesterday in class. You have that book, Nectar of Instruction?
I do, I believe.
Yeah, very good book. Very, very good book. But this is Rupa Goswami, and Srila Prabhupada has summarized it so nicely. So we'll continue going through. That's the one benefit of Wednesday nights. We get to go through the Nectar of Instruction together. So if you ever get to come on a Wednesday night, that's a good one. But this is actually what we should be doing. We should realize the difference between the common man and what they have to offer. Because a lot of times people get spiritual and, I don't know, there's some guy, he wrote like the Four Agreements, Paulo Coelho, or. So a lot of times people put that on the same level as like, say, Prabhupada's Gita. Well, I have to finish this one first. And I'm always like, I don't want to be rude and imposing, but I'm just thinking like, yeah, you totally don't. Get rid of that one here. You just put this one in your hand. You'll get so much more benefit. But, because people don't know in the beginning the level of potency available to, say, someone like Prabhupada, or it's reading from like Krishna's Bhagavad Gita, or and so on. You have a question?
It might also be like little difficult to understand, like sometimes for like some people, like it might
Yes.
be too advanced for some people to
Yes, yes.
understand. Like
Well, that's why we have some more baby books we also give like this. But yeah, there are bridge books, like for instance, Magna's friend Stephanie came here and was interested in what Magna was doing because she read a book by Jay Shetty, like Think Like a Monk, where he puts things in very modern. I mean, Vaisheshika Prabhu just wrote that a book, The Four Questions, which also does a very similar thing. So for those people, we find a way, but we want to try to give them something that's pointing in the right direction because, like for instance, the Four Agreements it's probably, it might get you a little closer. Like for me, I read a book called Autobiography of a Yogi, and that actually really opened me up to a lot of the spiritual side of life. But at one point, it was very good that I give up hearing and reading the things from this author, even though he did a very nice thing for me in my life. At some point, once I realized the direction and the gift available to me, that okay, I got to go for this. I've got something. This is no longer helpful for me. Just like playing with toys in kindergarten is no longer helpful for your growth as a human being.
Oh, I have to give those up to it?
Yeah, you might have to give up your toys. So anyhow, listen, we got to end here because there's a very short fast breaking time today. It's a kind of a rare thing where the Akadashi fast break. It's usually over like 5 to 6 hours, but it's within 1 hour. So I want to give everyone the time to break the fast properly. So that would be for most people eating grains, or even some of you might even be taking water or whatever. Thank you for joining online. Thank you guys for joining. We finished chapter 11. We will start chapter 12. And this is about the birth of Emperor Parikit. So this is very nice. I like that I'm learning how to pronounce things, so I don't have to say Parikshit anymore. Yes. Yeah, Parikit and Nershinga are Devaki Devi Dasi enlightened me on. So